From the PSIA-AASI Satellite Studios in Portland, Oregon, I'm George Thomas. Have we got a show for you today? Thank you so much for listening to First Chair. We've got some incredible guests with us this evening. Going to let them introduce themselves. And Matt, let's start with you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for having me on. My name is Matt Gnoza. I work for US Ski and Snowboard, and I'm the Freestyle Sport Director. I've been with the organization since 2014, and I think I've served in just about every role the freestyle department has to offer over there. So look forward to our conversation tonight.
Ellie?
I'm Ellie Matalavage. I am a member of the PSIA-AASI National Team for Alpine.
And AJ.
Oh, sorry to talk over you, George. Hi, everybody. I'm AJ. I'm also on the PSIA-AASI National Team on the Alpine side with Ellie.
So US Ski and Snowboard along with the PSIA National Team. I wonder where this is going. Matt, let's start off with you. How did you first hear about the PSIA-AASI National Team, and why did you want to work with some of the members?
Yeah, George, and it goes back a little bit. And last summer, in the summer of 24, we were notified that in 2034, the Olympic Games would be coming to Salt Lake City again, back to the U.S. And so, as the sport director, I was tasked with trying to ensure we had teams that were prepared for peak performance on home snow when it comes back around. And so we researched a bunch of data and figured out that these athletes are somewhere in our sport pipeline already. And we needed to start to figure out which ones were some of the higher performers, identify those athletes, and then start to increase their knowledge and their skill sets and start to work with them. So I designed a program called our National Development Group. And one of the goals of that group was to surround the athletes that were identified with subject matter experts that would affect skiing. That had to do everything with sports psychologists, nutritionists, strength and conditioning coaches. In freestyle, there's jumping. So I have acrobatics coaches that work with them. And then the most important piece to me was their skiing. How are we going to help these young athletes improve their skiing skills? And so I remembered a couple of years back when I first joined the organization, we used to have a collaborative program with the National Academy, that PSIA National Academy, that happens in the spring. And coaches and athletes could go and attend. And most of the coaches that I knew that had attended in the past came home and raved about the program and said, wow, I learned so much. Yeah, sure, I might be working with World Cup athletes, but I went back to this National Academy, collaborated with a bunch of ski and snowboard experts, and I learned so much. And one of my top coaches at the time came back and he was proud of his level 3 certification and how much he learned. And so I started thinking about that, and I was in the break room at our office, and our director of communications was in there, and she's quite the skier. And I had saw that she was in a ski off event between Deer Valley and Whistler Mountain through the CARV app. And I said, geez, Courtney, I didn't realize your ski IQ was as high as it was. So we got talking about it. And I asked, I said, do you know this guy, Eric Lipton? He's from what I understand, he's one of the top ski instructors at Deer Valley, former member of the national team. I didn't know Eric, but I saw his name on that leaderboard. Can you connect me with him? And she said, yeah, sure, I know Eric. And so she connected me with Eric. Eric, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because I found AJ and Ellie, wasn't able to come and help us out at the project, but he was determined to make sure that we had quality coaches. He said, I'm not just going to send you anybody. I'm going to find you the best. Give me some time. And I hadn't heard from him about a week. And I was like, this is not going to happen. And then he called me and said, I've got 2 for you. And that's when I got to meet AJ and Ellie. And that's kind of the long story short of how this project started.
AJ, Ellie, I'd like for you both to chime in here. What was it like to be named to do this project with the US Ski and Snowboard? Were you nervous about it? Ellie, let's start with you.
Oh man, like from start to finish, I was just really excited. Eric Lipton is a family friend and actually one of my first ever ski instructors. So it's kind of just full circle for him to then call me to ask to do something that he was the equivalent of, and it just makes me, it gives you some butterflies, some excitement there. And right away I said yes. I think our phone call was less than 2 minutes. At first I was like, Eric, why are you calling me? And then, can you do this? What are the dates? I'm in. Full of excitement and a little bit of nervousness, like going into a new event with a new partnership and someone you haven't met before.
AJ?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is to whether I was nervous or not is absolutely yes. I think whenever you go into an environment with folks that are really skilled and they have really good reasons why they do things a certain way, it can be a little intimidating, and it can definitely make you think twice about how you approach a situation. But yeah, similar to Ellie, Eric called me. Eric has also been a longtime mentor and friend since I got started in the organization, and was super flattered that he would think of me or Ellie or any of us to come do something as cool as this. And along with the nervousness and the butterflies was also a lot of excitement. It's obviously a really, really cool opportunity for the two organizations to come together. And I think we both realized how cool it could be if the outcomes came out the way they did. So I think, yeah, we were really excited, but also a little nervous.
And speaking of nerves, Matt, were you a little nervous about this? Might there be some pushback from highly experienced coaches or anything like that? I mean, you did mention that coaches have attended National Academy and came back raving about it, but just curious if there was any nervousness about this project on your part.
I was excited, but I did get a lot of pushback from coaches that were sending athletes to this program. Right. And one of the comments I got was that PSIA instructors, these are, national level athletes. Some have competed in the World Cup. What are these instructors going to teach these athletes? And I said, what we're at is we're at the beginning of our prep season, right? Our season ends, and then we take advantage of the snow that's still on the ground in the late spring in the US because it's cheap, it's affordable, it's easy access. And why not kick it off again? And I'm a firm believer in solid foundation skills, fundamentals, and so that was really the goal. Like who's better at teaching solid foundation and fundamental skills than our nation's best ski instructors, right? This is what they do day in and day out. Our coaches work at a high level of intensity, working on probably a lot more tactical stuff. And so bringing it back with these guys was something I was truly excited about. And it's funny for me, George, to hear about their nerves because, I was telling you before they got on, I had downloaded a few podcasts to get familiar with it before we got on. And one of the ones I was listening to was talking about how, as instructors, you assess your learners as they're approaching your lesson, right? You might walk by them at the ski rack, or you see them stumbling over to your lesson with their boots on, or, their boots unbuckled, or, how they're carrying their skis, and what are you about to get into? And I would say for AJ and Ellie, the table was turned, right? They were being assessed by these athletes, right? Like from the minute these athletes showed up, you could see them going, who are these two, and what are they going to teach me? And we'll get more into that. But these two, obviously they passed that assessment with flying colors.
And AJ, Ellie, I mean, you had to go into this with some confidence. And what was it like when you were experiencing meeting these world-class athletes and knowing, I got to really bring it? These are people that I'm here to work with and do the best I can. AJ, let's start with you.
Yeah. It definitely, like I said, there were some nerves at the beginning, but I think one thing that I felt right away, I'm sure they were sizing us up a little bit, but it was a really engaged group. And once we got on snow and we started working together, you know, we're only as good as the willingness of the students in front of us to learn and try and do. And it was a really, really cool experience to get to start to build those relationships with these athletes and see how engaged and how curious and how much effort they put into understanding through doing and trying. And so it was a really, really cool experience to get to work with a group like that.
And Ellie, a little spin on that, but what did you feel like you and AJ were really able to bring to this group?
I think what we knew going into it from the information from Matt was that he really wanted the group to work on their fundamental skiing. He wanted people that come through his program, and I love and respect his vision so much. He wants them to be excellent skiers, not just amazing mogul skiers. He wants them to be well-rounded, and that maybe settled my nerves a little bit because that's what AJ and I are really good at. So he was after what we already obtained. And so we knew that the expectation was realistic. So that, I think, definitely helped settle my nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
And Matt, I'd like you to expound on what Ellie just said between world-class mogul skiers and world-class skiers. What are you looking at as the difference there? And what did you want AJ and Ellie to bring to your athletes?
Yeah, it's funny because after Eric connected us, I remember the conversation with Ellie, and I think my comment was something. Correct me if I'm mistaken, Ellie, but I'm pretty sure I was telling you my theory on we're really good at creating mogul skiers, but what I really want is to create skiers of the moguls, right? And I switched that around purposely because what I want is when these athletes are outside of the World Cup mogul course, that they have just phenomenal ski skills. When they're in the start, when they're in the course in the middle of the event, and they call upon a skill, I want it to happen fundamentally solid, right? And so by creating a skier first and then bringing those phenomenal ski skills to the moguls, we're creating a much more well-rounded world-class mogul skiing athlete. And that's ultimately what we want. You know, I've been 30 plus years of mogul coaching, and I've yet to see the perfect run. So every athlete has to call upon some skill to make some type of recovery move or adjustment in the middle of it. And when they make that move correctly and proficiently, chances are they're going to have success the rest of the run. Whereas if they're stuck in just mogul skiing world, you know, we all picture that, you know, super tight feed and compact stance and that's all well and good, but we want those ski skills to be polished.
2. Trying to stay sharp this season? Check out the national and regional events calendar at thesnowpros.org/calendar and find the more than 3,000 events that we host annually. Whether it's a local clinic or a big mountain event, there's something happening near you.
And Ellie, how did you start to address that with the athletes? Because, hey, I mean, I'm one of the best at what I do. What are you going to bring to me? How did you assess the skiers when you first saw them on snow? And was it in the bumps? What did you have them do to really get an idea of who you were working with?
We didn't ski moguls initially. I don't think that we got in them the first day at all. And as much as they were assessing us when AJ and I walked up, it was a fairly easy assessment because I kind of had some pretty good expectations going in of like what their stance would look like, what their turn shape would look like, how are they transitioning, where was their body, like center of mass in transition. And as soon as you ask these athletes to do something out of that mogul bubble or something, a turn shape that they're not as practiced at, or something where they have to vary the turn shape throughout. So a funnel or like hourglass, if you will, it really brought out things in their skiing that were not their go-to. So the assessment from there for where we need to go after was pretty easy, to be quite honest. Yeah.
What was the reception of the athletes to that, AJ?
You know, I would say like I said before, I was really, really impressed with their willingness to try things and be curious. You know, there was an element of the camp where like we had some technology to kind of help us a little bit, although it wasn't a focus. CARV was there. So I think that helped a little bit with the engagement piece because they could see some of the values that CARV was putting on their skiing and kind of asking themselves why they weren't able to change that score. But like I say, I think that there was an overwhelming willingness to just go out there and try and not necessarily push back, but maybe check and guess and see for themselves if what we were saying might be true. But similar to Ellie, like I say, I think my strategy right away was to put some parameters on them that would force some things that we could have a discussion about. So getting into more turns that move across the fall line and create rounder shapes, and then talking about what we can do with our bodies to our skis to really make that effective. And yeah, it just felt like a really great conversation. Great group of athletes.
And Matt, not ignoring you here, I just want to stay on this a little bit longer, but Ellie, what were they like then when you got into the bumps on day 2? Were people starting to notice a change in their skiing?
I think the girls did make some changes. I had an all-female group. And like AJ said, the CARV tool was really excellent because the first couple runs, they were kind of going into this autonomous state of how I always am coached to ski moguls. And then they'd get feedback from the CARV app and Laura, who came to the event with us from CARV. And we would work together to explain the data and to explain what they were seeing and why their scores were higher or lower. And I think the thing that helped the most in terms of like their actual skiing when they're in the bumps for performance was to see when they're like converging and diverging, to see if they're actually carving down that backside of the bump or if the skis are starting to separate and the tips are starting to turn away from each other. That was something that I think will really stick with. Like we brought that with us, but that's something they can really take with them as they continue in their career.
And AJ, you had mentioned some before we started recording and we're having a conversation that you actually noticed kind of the language of the athletes you were coaching was changing as the session went on.
Yeah, I think, you know, when Matt and Ellie and I talked, that was something that Matt had really highlighted, was that the outcome of this would be to give these athletes some more awareness on how they move fundamentally so that they can really start to be their own coaches and coach themselves, or potentially sort through a piece of feedback they might be getting from somebody that doesn't seem to land or they don't understand. So that was a big outcome goal, I think, stated right from the beginning. And we really tried to keep it simple, but we did speak our language a little bit. And I think the coolest thing about it was to see them kind of digest some of our terminology, but not without going out and making sure they believed it first. Yeah. So it was kind of cool that really seemed to drive the point home. Yeah. And to have a group that was just so aware of what they were doing and able to make changes, it was really cool in real time to be like, well, what if we thought about it this way and maybe moved and did it this way and see what happens? And they're like, yeah, okay. So yeah, it was fun. It was great. It was a really cool experience as an educator to see a group like that get what they got out of it.
Now, Matt, were you actually there? Were you there for some of the coaching sessions?
Yep, I actually ended up splitting my time with each group. We split the team up into 2 groups. Ellie took the girls and AJ took the guys, and I spent half the day with Ellie's group and then the other half with AJ's group, and then I kind of alternated on the second day. So I was able to get both sides of it. You know, I think one point in that whole knowledge piece that I think is important to mention too, and it was I won't to embarrass him, but AJ made a comment there that really resonated with me with the athletes, and he said how he never expected to be in this PSIA world. He grew up an alpine racer, right? Like racing, and he made a comment how he if he only knew then what he knew now, maybe he could have got over his outside ski and actually maybe beat Ted Ligety. I don't know if Ted was his counterpart at that time, but like that really resonated with me because it was spot on with what I wanted these athletes to gain. It really said, if we can help increase their knowledge, if we can help get them to speak the language of skiing, they're going to be able to be coached by anybody down the road. But more importantly, they'll be able to coach themselves better. And they'll have a better understanding as to what it is they need to do to get the most out of their skiing abilities. And I would say these guys did a phenomenal job in helping increase their, to steal a term from CARV, we increased their ski IQ. Right. And it wasn't just the numerical score in the CARV app, but it was the way they can talk about skiing now. And now coaching these athletes later in the summer, we had a lot more two-way conversations with the athletes. There was a little bit of, give and take now in the conversations. What did you feel in transition? What did you feel in initiation? How are you doing with your rotary stuff? Like some of these guys had never really talked about edging skills, right? Like edging in elite level moguls isn't a very highly talked about skill. But it's a super important skill, right? If you're not putting a ski on edge in the moguls, like good luck, right? Like you're going to be chasing your feet down that slope pretty quickly. But they hadn't thought about skiing in that way, and so this really took down some of those things and helped really get everyone's ski IQ increased. It was amazing.
And Matt, at what point did you start maybe seeing a change in the athletes that you were there with? From a little trepidation maybe at the beginning to some real buy-in?
I would say right about the halfway point. I think there was a couple runs of I think AJ and Ellie pointed it out well, of like, what like what you talking about, but that quickly went away. I think especially when they both skied in front of the group or demonstrated something, it all of a sudden they went, okay, this person probably makes that turn better than I can. So I'm going to start to listen. It was funny, even towards the end, I think AJ ended up on a pair of Mogul skis and one of the athletes ended up on a pair of his GS skis. So like there was all kinds of collaboration happening in the end. It was pretty awesome.
AJ, Ellie, both of you, what surprised you about this group of athletes the most? Something that really stood out to you? Ellie, let's start with you, and then AJ, just follow up. That'd be great.
Something I was pleasantly surprised about. They're at this such elite level and they're trying for really challenging, impressive things, and they had so much love for the sport and had a lot of fun. And I was so pleasantly surprised to see that, because we see kids get burnout, athletes get burnt out, and I could tell they really loved it. And that's a testament to the programs that their selective schools are building, and that's a pool from different parts of the country. So that was really amazing to see.
AJ?
Yeah. Well, I've spoken a couple of times about this group's willingness to try things. I wasn't surprised that this was a group of doers at all. But what did catch me off guard, even though they may have been sizing us up and had some reservations, is that they did want to engage in a conversation. They wanted to understand why I thought about things the way that I did, why I presented things the way that I did, what was important about making round turns that moved you across the fall line or across the hill. So there was a real genuine curiosity that I felt like contributed so much to the positive group dynamic that we had. But that was probably the thing that caught me off guard more than anything else, is just that there was genuine curiosity. And I think that speaks to Ellie's point about this group being motivated by the right things and truly loving the sport. Because you could feel that as well. They weren't just there to like hammer the bumps and get the best time. They were truly there to be in the mountains and enjoy where they were. So
I can attest to that from the extremely loud hooting and hollering from AJ's group as well. So it's great.
Matt, how does that make you feel? I mean, this was your idea to make this collaboration happen, and it seems like it really worked.
Yeah,
Anything about that surprise you?
yeah, George. Before AJ and Ellie got on, we were meeting, and I briefly explained some things to you. One of the things that came out of this program that I didn't expect was a lot to what Ellie just mentioned. The passion that these athletes had and the love for skiing. And I think what came out of it was inspiration, right? Like, I don't think our athletes knew that you could become a member of the PSIA national team, and that there were people out there like AJ and Ellie that were phenomenal skiers, but were actually worked in ski school. And I think this really opened up the eyes of the athletes as to opportunities that are available for them. Like I was saying to you, George, every 4 years we send 4 men and 4 women to the Olympic Games. And maybe, just maybe, some Americans lucky enough to leave with a medal and can make money off of that for years to come. But everybody that participates in our sport does so because they love the mountains and they love skiing. And now through this project, I think we've shown that these world-class athletes could follow in these footsteps too. And it doesn't have to be in a full-time role. They could, there's plenty of part-time instructors out there and people like that. And how do you share your passion and your love for skiing with the rest of the world? And so I think a lot of our athletes gained that one piece. And I was telling you, George, like, I actually gained that myself, right? A 30-year coach, having coached on the World Cup and Olympic Games, and through this program, I actually came home and said, geez, if I have this like half of a seat at the PSIA table, like that's kind of silly for me not to be part of that program. And so I started to investigate my own ways to get more involved with PSIA. And I was telling you that Christmas week and February week, I'm usually off, right? Resorts aren't holding World Cups. We're usually slow in travel. Knowing the ski industry like I do, love my local hill. And I said, I just want to find a way to help out. And for the past few years, I've been parking cars Christmas week up at our local hill here in Vermont. And I actually love it. You see a side of the ski world that you've never seen before. You ever watch a family get out of a car and try and get to a ski hill like that? That's a crazy thing to watch. And so yeah, so I'm like the parking lot guy out there. Nobody knows who I am or what I really do, helping people up the stairs and getting skis off their racks. But this year I actually told the resort, I'm going to hang up my parking jacket and put on a ski school jacket for Christmas week and Feb week. And it was really because of the inspiration of these guys. So I hope to get out there on some magic carpets with some beginners at our local hill and share my love for skiing, because I think that's how inspirational kind of this project was for me.
Question to all of you. Winter Olympics, what event are you most excited about watching? And please don't say the bobsled. No. Ellie.
Event. I'm moguls now, and slalom. I mean, men's, women's, both. Yeah.
AJ.
I know this is the cop-out answer, but if you got skis on your feet, I'm excited to see it in the Olympics. I grew up as a ski racer, so I do have a close personal connection and experience there. So that one's close to my heart, but I really enjoy anything that people have skis on and things that people don't have skis on. The Winter Olympics are awesome. But yeah, moguls, aerials, cross country. I'm a big Nordic skier, so I like watching cross country. But yeah, don't discriminate.
Matt, how about you?
Well, I hope we can drag home a couple medals in moguls. I think we've got a good chance. But anyone wearing the red, white, and blue, especially with skis on their feet, they'll have my support. Can't wait to watch it and see it all work out.
Do you see any future collaborations, PSIA, US Ski and Snowboard, happening in the future?
It's already on my calendar. I'll tell you that. Like, I actually got to figure out when the National Academy is, so I can have access to these guys again and make sure my planning, collaborates with their schedules, and hopefully some more of their teammates are available too. Because what I see really is expanding on this project. Right? They worked with a group called our National Development Group, but before that, we actually have a group for a little bit younger athletes. Called our Project Gold group as well. And I'd really like to get this level of program and knowledge gaining into our Project Gold program as well. I think, all too often the athletes show up and they've got their little skinny mogul skis on and they just want to shred and show us how awesome they are. But what I really want to do is challenge them to become better skiers in that project. And who better but our PSIA national team members.
AJ, Ellie, what was the reception of other team members when they heard you got to do this? Was there a lot of, whoa, I would like to be involved in anything in the future? Or what was the response? Ellie?
Yeah, it was kind of, some of our coaches didn't even know that this was happening. We called them and let them know, and they were so excited, and also told us we had to do an amazing job so that we could keep this rolling. So a little extra pressure from Michael Rogan is always a really good inspiration to do well. But yeah, and like to what Matt said about other team members, Michael and I had a phone call, and I was like, we need to knock this out of the park. We need to open opportunities up for other team members as well to work with the team and to work with Matt, and just keep hopefully curating this partnership and working together and keep the communication going.
AJ, anything to add?
Yeah, I'd say the initial response from the other team members was initially excitement and then very much supportive. And I think that's because, similar to how Matt was thinking when he reached out to us, I think a lot of our teammates and coaches realize that as organizations, the more that we can come together and the more that we can work together, that only makes us all better. And when the tide rises, we all rise. And I think that was something that was in the back of everybody's mind when they kind of heard what was going on, is just they wanted to be extremely supportive, and they were very excited because working together makes us all better. And I think that was a huge thing for everybody. So.
Matt, anything you'd like to add in conclusion?
Yeah, I think one of the other things I learned, George, was these national team members, they actually go out and represent USA too, right? Like they go and they have their in competitions with national teams from other countries. And as much as I'm rooting for our athletes to bring it home, I hope these guys can bring it home as well. And we can all make USA great in skiing. That's it. And it really, I think it is a collaborative effort. It's not just going to be US Ski and Snowboard by itself. It won't just be PSIA by itself, but continuing to work together and have this vision for US skiing. Everybody wins, from our resort partners to both of our organizations. So something I'm truly excited about.
Matt, AJ, Ellie, I really enjoyed this conversation this evening. I thank you all so much for joining. I know you're all extremely busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to join us on First Chair. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, George.
Yeah,
Thanks, George.
From the PSIA,
AJ, Ellie, good luck with your training.
Thanks, Matt.
I'm sure our ski tracks will cross somewhere this winter, but if not, we'll see you in the spring.
Sounds good.
From the PSIA-AASI Satellite Studios in Portland, Oregon, I'm George Thomas.